Why do we binge eat? And is there a specific diet that will fix my binge eating? Hi, I'm Wright, an accredited nutritionist, and I help people all across the world overcome disordered eating. No matter what someone may tell you or how you may feel, if you find yourself binge eating, this is not down to a lack of willpower. Binge eating is a horrid thing, and you absolutely shouldn't be making it worse by berating and being cruel to yourself. In order to heal your relationship with food and break the binge eating cycle, it's important to understand the root cause of binge eating. Identifying the source of any issue allows us to put in place a more effective solution. Let's talk about why binge eating happens and the absolute worst approach you can take to solve it. Broadly speaking, there are two recognized primary contributing factors to binge eating behavior: being overly restrictive with our diet, and the role of food in overeating as an emotional coping mechanism. When we become overly restrictive with our diet, it can wreak havoc on our brain. Namely, when it comes to binge eating, the parts of our brain best described as the primal brain. The more primal parts of our brain generate an immense urge to overeat as our brain panics and believes this restriction is some kind of famine and its sole focus turns to survival. This overeating may gradually progress into habitual, uncontrolled overeating, often accompanied by a crippling sense of guilt and shame. It's at this stage that we would then categorize that behavior as binge eating, and you most often see this progression in those who have an extensive history of overly restrictive dieting. Binge eating behaviors can also develop as a means of coping with challenging circumstances, as well as dealing with difficult emotions. Now, I'm sure I'm not rocking the boat when I say that food is amazing. The sensation of flavor and the response our body and mind have to eating allows us, even for just a moment, to escape or to feel better. In fact, it's actually quite normal to eat for emotional reasons, whether it be the morning of a loss or even celebrating a birthday. We use food for all manner of situations to make us feel better. Emotional eating only becomes a concern when it's our only means of coping with difficulty in life. You see, binge eating and negative self-talk go hand in hand. It's not just that we're abusing our body with these behaviors, we're also being incredibly cruel in how we speak to ourselves. Chronic critical self-talk leaves us in a continually low mood, and feeling low is why you turn to food, then the critical self-talk essentially perpetuates the cycle of binge eating. Basically, the self-talk which goes along with binge eating predicts and fuels further binge eating episodes. Is there a certain diet that can fix my binge eating? Absolutely not. If anything, dieting or even having a diet mentality will just perpetuate and prolong binging behaviors. The essence of a diet is restriction. Restriction is one of the key predictors and triggers for binge eating behaviors. Remember the primal brain? Well, you're doing it no favors by launching yourself into another miracle cure diet. Now, this doesn't mean that diets are inherently bad. It just means that it would be a bad idea for you to try another. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. Trust me, I can empathize. You're worried about gaining weight if you're not on a diet. You've been subjected to years of conflicting nutrition advice and information, and you don't know where to turn to for a solution. You love the idea of a diet because it feels like you're doing something no matter how dreadful it actually is. You've been told over and over again by society and the media that if you just had the perfect body, then everything will sort itself out naturally. Well, let me tell you this, you need to flip that mentality on its head. Turn the "I'll be okay once I get my diet sorted" to "I'll get my diet sorted once I'm okay." And it's not like if you spend time improving your relationship with food and reducing the binge eating episodes that you'll necessarily gain weight. In fact, when you remove those binge eating episodes out of your life, you'll most likely notice that your body composition begins to improve again organically. Not only that, but you'll feel less bloated, you'll sleep better, you'll be less stressed, you'll be less erratic, you'll be more productive and fall back in love with exercise again. There will be living back in your life, and that's invaluable. So no, there isn't a diet that's going to fix your problems. In fact, most diets cause more problems than they ultimately fix. Here are the actual basic fundamentals for overcoming binge eating. The first strategy is all to do with structure. More specifically, it's having a structured eating pattern and plan, not a rigid one, a structured one. Planned, regular fueling will help to negate the primal urge to binge. The second step is to begin to break down the barriers and associations you've developed with your fear foods and the foods you binge on. When you restrict yourself from a food or create a story around it, that elicits a greater short-term emotional response than you give the food more power over you. It's driving you to eventually eat it. You're not the one making that conscious decision. Instead, you want to plan to incorporate these foods into your diet in a way that's comfortable for you. Slowly and steadily reintroduce them. A really great strategy for this is to do it alongside a friend who can support you through it and listen to any of the concerns and feelings of guilt you may have while eating the food. You'd be amazed just how much of a difference it can make when you have someone who is there to support you just by listening to what you have to say and how you're actually feeling. The third step is to audit your social media. Don't want to expose yourself to harmful dieting messages and adverts or the unrealistic beauty standards and pressures that have pushed you into extreme dieting in the first place. If it doesn't serve you, don't follow, don't like, don't comment. Get rid of it, move on. The fourth step is adding in some movement that uplifts you. I personally love exercise. I think it's wildly underrated, especially as a means of empowering someone. There are few things in the world that make you feel more confident in yourself than the achievement of moving your body and facing a challenge. Be it lifting a weight, climbing a hill, or finishing a run, exercise will always make you feel awesome. It's really important that you work on your internal narrative around training too when it comes to adding it back in. You're not necessarily exercising for weight loss, although that might be a byproduct of it. What you're doing is exercising as a means of celebrating your body and all of its capabilities. Shifting our internal narrative on exercise is one step on the journey towards a healthier view of self and the path to optimal well-being. Binge eating behaviours are the product of being overly restrictive or relying solely on food as a means of coping with the difficulties and challenges of life. Everyone's journey to binge eating is unique, and so it's vital that you explore and understand your own journey so that you can put the absolute best plan of solutions in place for you. There aren't any magic diets out there that are going to fix it either. In fact, they'll probably just make it a whole lot worse. Understand why, put structures in place, embrace the foods you've restricted yourself from, find support, reduce your exposure to those triggers of critical self-talk, and fall in love with empowering exercise again. Always remember, binge eating is a chapter of your story. It's not the whole book. You can overcome it with the right approach. As always, if you have any more questions, let me know in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe to the Myprotein YouTube channel for more great evidence-based nutrition information.